All right. Hi everyone. A very good evening to you guys. I remember when I was in college, whenever we had guest lecturers who'd say very good evening, we used to always look at them, and say, "यार ये आदमी क्या पकाने वाला है हमको," giving us gyan, And usually the introductions are so long that you almost get confused. And I have done so many different things, so I'll try to make this as fun, as quick, as practical. I'm not going to talk about any of that positivity stuff, which is usually associated with the world of psychotherapy, positive raho, etc. No, I keep telling people if you want to see that, please watch videos on YouTube for free. I'm here to give you very useful, very practical, very simple, and very easy tips on how to deal with these three topics: friendship, fear, and FOMO. Of course, my slides will not cover everything. I'm assuming that you guys will have questions based on what I've spoken. You can see my contact details are below at any point if you would like to screenshot it. Sometime in the future, if you'd like to be in touch, you can. All right. So Mohit so kindly spoke about a few of the brands I've been associated with, but I do enjoy putting this slide up, honestly, because when I was doing my master's degree, I was doing my MBA. There were no jobs out there because we graduated at the time of the global financial crisis. So if you've seen the movie The Big Short, I actually graduated during that period. So let alone getting placed, people were getting displaced. So there were no jobs out there. And I look at this slide and I think about the last 10 years of my life. I've worked with entertainment, with advertising, now with mental health. I also consult on a variety of corporate team building and HR projects with people like Tata, Piramal, which are very well known brands. Uh, so just to give you an idea that I have worked with many different companies, because for me, I usually just see companies as a bunch of individuals with a couple of interesting ideas, some boring ideas as well, and a logo that was also designed by individuals. If you've seen the movie Rocket Singh, he says, "What is business? Business log hain." Business is all about people, right? So I always feel that it's very important for us to deal with ourselves, deal with the world as we're dealing with other human beings, and not get too embroiled in, the statistics, the models. So that's why I have a very conversational, very easygoing, and simple way of trying to illustrate these things. Now, as you can see, I've added the Amity Global School Business School logo as well. I have lectured college students. Of course, this medium is unfamiliar to me for a variety of reasons. I do enjoy the energy of a room full of students, but of course, for obvious reasons, we are here. We are. I'm assuming that everyone can hear me, and I'm speaking at a moderate pace. So yes, I have done a lot of lectures and I love talking to college students because I myself was a college student not too long ago. All right, 10 years feels like a very long time now, but it feels very recent in my brain. Now, when I was growing up, it was the 90s. I'm assuming, of course, a lot of y'all are much, much, much younger than me. I'm a 34-year-old man now, but in the 90s, there was no internet. So, and I was on a boarding school which was on a hill. As you can see in the photo on the left, there's a little hill out there. So we had very often we had power blackouts because electricity would keep going. We had no internet, no mobile telephones, no cable. So we grew up in a world where we were forced to trust what authority figures were telling us. So if you're a teacher and if you look serious and you look angry enough and you say something to a student, that's it. The year was 1996. We have to listen to you. We have to obey you. But someone like me, I used to be very argumentative and I used to ask too many questions, and my teachers would say, "Why don't you just shut up and do what is being told to you? Why do you always have so many questions, Aman Bhosle?" So I'm not that kind of professor. I love questions because it reminds me of all the times I wanted to ask questions and I had to hold back, worried to disappoint my teachers. But you don't have to hold back when we do Q&A. Please grill me as much as you want, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. So I grew up away from the city in the middle of nowhere, a very basic life. So I was the only child. So I realized as a very young child that, I am not the center of the universe because I had to share a room with six other people. That's just how boarding school is. Then I went to Xavier's and I bought myself the highest pair of jeans that money could buy. As you can see on the extreme left, I have no idea why I was wearing those boots, but as you can see, by the end of my period at Xavier's, I still hadn't got the mustache, which I have now. I was wearing chappals to college by the end. And that picture is from the year, I think, 2007, the one on the extreme right. So I was a student like you guys. I wore strange clothes as well. I thought wearing chappals made me cool, and I spent a lot of time there trying to, trying to assimilate with different cultures. I used to be very scared to talk to girls. I was very nervous as a college kid, but I came around. I found interesting things to learn, and I always believe that you can learn a lot about life, not just through books, but also by interacting with the right kind of people. All right, and we'll touch upon this point later. Cut to the global financial crisis when I cleared my MBA and came out. There were no jobs. So I had a friend of mine who called me up saying, "There's a job, but it means you will have to live in a Malaysian jungle for 6 months." And I can't do it because my parents are trying to get me married. So the money is terrible. But since you're looking for work, why don't you go and try your luck? I said, all right. So I joined this camera crew where we were doing a reality show, which is something like the show Survivor. Survivor meets Big Boss. It used to be called Is Jungle Se Mujhe Bachao. So I was in the jungles working with the camera crews, lying in coffins, as you can see in the right side corner. I don't know what I was doing in that. Working with snakes, lizards, spiders, all kinds of dangerous animals. I've even had scorpions put all over my body to test out a certain stunt because somebody has to test those things out uh, before a celebrity tries it on to know if there are any risks involved. As you can see, my hair had grown much longer by then when I was in the jungle for 6 months. The one thing that the jungle teaches you about life is that the jungle has its own logic, its own rules, and the snakes that are in the jungle don't care whether you have an MBA or not. So life can be very binary if you think about it, because in the jungle, it's all about survival. It's all about being extremely conscious of your surroundings. I know it sounds like a cliche. Let's be conscious about our surroundings. The dolphins are dancing at Marine Drive. All these things on WhatsApp and on Instagram. I get it. But we're going to be talking a little bit about how, as an individual, as a human being, you need to learn to be sensitive, not just to your surroundings, but also to yourself and how you interact with those surroundings, especially at a time of the coronavirus crisis. Now, the time period that we are in right now could best be defined as a period of shared unrest. I know everyone is saying things like pandemic, apocalypse, end of the world, and these are all just glamorous words to describe something very, very simple, which is unrest. What is unrest? Unrest is based in anxiety, is based in stress. And why do people get anxious? For two reasons. Either they are trying to predict the future, or they're trying to change the past, both of which are impossible. So, very often, I say anxiety is the most impractical decision you could be making because you can neither control the future or predict the future, neither can you change the past. So, yes, we are all uneasy. We never thought the day would come where we would be struggling to get simple things for our home, groceries, and uh, it's definitely a period of unrest, and a lot of people uh, are suffering because of that. All human beings, regardless of where they come from, regardless of their family name, how much money they have educated they are, have a tendency to seek the greatest rewards by taking the least amount of efforts. We would wish we lived in a world where we do the bare minimum to subsist, the bare minimum to be relevant in our industries of choice, the bare minimum, but yet we got all the rewards that are accrued to someone who was putting their best foot forward. And why do human beings enjoy things being easy? It's because ever since we have started living in civilized societies, things have become easy because of technology, connectivity, access. So a lot of us have grown up not knowing what it is to live without our desires being deprived to us or our desires not being met. All right. So this is a tendency in all human beings. And in a period like the COVID-19, where we're all stuck in our houses, whether you're a celebrity, A-list, B-list celebrity, or you're just a student trying to get through the day and regularize your sleeping cycle, or whether you're just someone who wants to post yoga and WhatsApp videos or videos of your dog and cat, you will still try to look for the easy way out because that's just how human beings are. The reason we look for shortcuts is also because we are incredibly inventive and innovative. If we were not looking for shortcuts, we wouldn't have discovered stone tools back when our ancestors decided agriculture was a far more viable way of a society forming rather than just being a nomadic hunter gatherer. That was also to seek out convenience. So one could say it's part of our evolutionary design to look for shortcuts, but it's also one of our weaknesses. Let's try to understand that further. Now, before the COVID-19 threat, we were slaves to our schedules and habits, right? Everyone had a very regimented schedule: wake up at this time, gym at that time, TGIF drinks with the colleagues, with the friends. We all had certain habits that involved the participation of other people. There was a degree of predictability. There was a degree of comfort to our schedules. Friday night here, so we're going to Kamla. There is comfort in going to this familiar places. You know your order, you know what you like to eat, what you like to drink. Everyone has a little clique, a little group with whom they tend to meet, where they can post nice photos on Instagram. No harm in that. We all like to buy things. We all like to buy goods. We also like to buy experiences. And we could travel wherever the hell we wanted, whether you want to rent a bungalow at Alibag or whether you want to plan a trip to Europe. If you have the money, if your parents have the money, we lived in a time where we were free to choose, provided our visa comes through. All right. Now, what's happened after the COVID-19 threat? All our schedules had gone for a toss. We sleep at any time, wake up at any time. For a lot of people, a lot of my clients, sleep cycles have absolutely gone for a toss because that kind of regimentation is no longer required. Everyone is sitting in their Bart Simpson shorts. Everyone is, including me. We haven't worn pants in God knows how long. There is a shared discomfort and restlessness both inside the house and outside the house because there are so many new rules now that we need to memorize. There's this obsession now with washing our hands, which is a much required obsession. This term social distancing, which I have probably heard so many times since the lockdown has happened. I haven't left my house since the 21st of March, except to buy groceries. So what is happening is we are currently not able to access the goods and services and experiences that we are so used to accessing. So that is creating a sort of imbalance in our lives. And everyone is experiencing it, including me. I live alone. I don't live with my parents. My parents live in town. But I too have certain days where I ask myself, oh, what the hell's happening? Of course, there is that phenomenon of cabin fever where you start getting irritable, you start getting grumpy, you start getting extremely restless, and then that might hamper your productivity for a while. So because of this COVID-19 threat, we are all compromised in some ways or the other, and because we are a generation that is not used to delaying our gratification, because we're a generation that is not used to not getting what we want, right? It gets that much more difficult, especially in a situation like this. Now, I think we are not just in a pandemic, which is a disease based, virus based pandemic. We're in a pandemic of emotional upheavals because everyone at this particular stage of the lockdown is feeling very emotional about things they wished they could do, the things they had planned they would do. And I think one of the key aspects of working on your emotions is to first accept that you have emotions. Sometimes I have clients who say, I don't feel emotions anymore, or I don't trust my emotions. And I have to tell them that your emotions were given to you for a reason. Your emotions are like a navigator, all right? But having said that, even if you use a navigator like Google Maps, which is considered very, very respected in the world of GPS navigation, even sometimes Google Maps screws up, right? Sometimes in BKC on Google Maps, just see what happens. The map goes crazy because it hasn't registered a lot of those new flyovers and roads. So we're in a pandemic of emotional upheavals. You're not only going to become one of these emotional people, you're also going to be dealing with these emotional people because everyone is affected by it. Because that much news is also hitting you. You're not getting much of a break from all this news. So there is something that we refer to also as information overload and information fatigue. All right. Now, when is the last time we faced a global threat like this? Someone from the World Health Organization made a comment saying that, oh, it was during the Second World War that the world had faced a crisis that affected every country in some way or the other. Because, localized conflicts or the Middle Eastern theater of conflict, or even what's been happening, in Southeast Asia. Even we had some escalating tensions with Pakistan not very long ago. Um, but we are unfamiliar with the response protocol for a global threat. So that unfamiliarity also acts on us. So these are a few things I wanted to touch on before we jumped right into our topic for today, which is friendship, fear, and FOMO, and its post-COVID mutations. What is a mutation? Anyone watch the X-Men movies? I'm assuming so. The last few ones were really atrocious. But a mutation is when a subject or an object of a certain nature undergoes certain transformations and changes, which might not necessarily be something that were originally planned. So, as there is a certain shock value and surprise value, you might be noticing there are certain changes inside you that you never thought would happen when a pandemic like this has just come and hit you in the face without your expectation. So, if you are feeling confused about what do I do with my time, who are my real friends, what should I, do with my life? How should I succeed? What kind of business do I want to enter, or what kind of business do I want to start? There is nothing wrong with that. You see, for too long, our education system has punished us morally and punished us for being confused and for admitting that we are confused. And I think one of the most human things that you could ever do is to be confused and to admit it, at least to yourself, that yes, you don't know what to do. Because when you start right at the bottom, the only way to go is up. So I'm very big on being honest with yourself, being honest about who you are, being honest about who you wish to become. Despite the challenges, and there will be many challenges, make no mistake, uh, the world does not exist as it is for our convenience. It never has and it never will. It's us that needs to do all the adapting. Now, if you're developing friendships in a college canteen, at an internship, at a bar, anywhere else, most of those friendships are characterized by the fact that y'all are physically in proximity to each other. So you happen to become friends with the people with whom you are planning college festivals, with the people with whom you hang out for coffee, with the people whose homes you go to, or the people who you sit next to in the class can also become like a bench group. Uh, so in a normal world, just because you're physically close to each other, there's a proximity factor that is usually taken for granted. Then there are group plans, there's hanging out in a variety of places and ways. There's a give and take that characterizes all friendships, which basically means I do for you, you do for me. Reciprocity. And most of us in our friendship selection processes follow a very loose selection process. What do I mean by this? A loose selection process. So we are usually happy to select people who don't attack us verbally, or we're very happy to select people who are just available when we have the time or the inclination. So that is a loose selection process. It casts a very wide net. No harm in that. And in the regular world, when you actually went to college, when you actually went to the campus, when you actually traveled together, it was very easy for us to share our time and our presence with someone. It was easy for us to just, because that human thing about being social animals was not so difficult to practice. Now, what has happened in the post COVID-19 world? Firstly, none of us can meet up. A lot of these so called groups that you were a part of, there's a possibility that they're splintering up. Because in a state of panic, what happens is there is an every man for himself narrative that starts controlling the way in which people think and the way in which people operate. Not for everyone, but definitely for a lot of people. Suddenly, you realize that you are not the center of the world. You're not as important, because what is now more important than all of us is the fact that there is a global pandemic. People are locked up, people are dying, there is no cure. Modi is giving us his tasks. These are the things that fuel the gossip, which is experienced in definitely in bursts if you're a part of several WhatsApp groups. And there is a certain sense of fatigue and information overload. I did refer to this a few slides ago. You realize suddenly that lack of time was never the issue, but still somehow the friendships that you were able to form when you all were actually next to each other, with each other, they suddenly don't feel the same. Suddenly you realize you're not as important, and all these people have now retreated. Or maybe there is also an over inclusivity which is stifling you in some ways. Sometimes some groups meet up too often, and then that can also lead to a sense of boredom. In order to compensate for not being able to physically be next to each other, they may video chat thrice a day, twice a day. And what happens when there is over familiarity is you may start taking each other for granted, or you start getting on each other's nerves, or conspiracy theories and the arguments that are born from those conspiracy theories, they suddenly start taking precedence. So all these things suddenly pile up, and they become a part of the escalating tensions that you experience in your friendships with people, regardless of how you met those people. Either you feel not at all important, or you feel like you're part of this entire circle of gossip and information overload. All right? Now, just a few reminders to give all friendships perspective. Whether you're friends for a a bunch of people who are friends just for a couple of months, for a couple of years, or friends still since childhood. I like to give perspective. So a few harsh reminders. The first one is your emotions were never special. So if you feel like you are being specially treated by somebody, or you're being given a certain a set of privileges, usually it's because the person in front of you is definitely getting something from you. There is a certain value that they are able to extract from you, right? I remember I once had a client, and she was shocked to know that most of her friends invited her to parties because she was footing a lot of the bills, because she came from a rich family, or because she added to a certain part of the appeal of the party, because she dressed well and she looked presentable. So it's very important for us to realize that however deep your friendships run, your emotions will never be special to anyone except to you. And your plans and your agendas, what you want to accomplish for that group, for that friendship, are again only important to you. Look, like in advertising, you can pitch your ideas. Let's go here, let's do there, let's do a Google Hangout party, let's do a Zoom party, let's do a dance party. You can have ideas. Some ideas may come to life, some may not. But what happens is that this time people become very touchy. Oh, I wanted to meet up with my friends, but in spite of being locked down, he has no time for me. Why? Then you realize that that friend also has plans and agendas for himself, and you thought you was the special friend or the important friend, but you were never. All right. And also now, because of this surplus of time where you don't leave your house, you also become that much greedier for novel experiences, or that much greedier to be surrounded by uh, faces, even in the virtual world, to be surrounded by faces who are sympathetic to your cause. All right. The third thing that I would like to give you as a piece of perspective is that not everyone who says they care for you may really care for you. To say I care for you, I'm there for you, kabhi bhi call karna, kabhi tumhara hi ghar hai. These things are said more as social euphemisms, as ways to sort of create. It's more like these are what I would refer to as social lubrication. All right, so you're trying to just wet the conversation so it slides smoothly from one topic to the other. But a lot of times people don't say what they mean to say, or what they mean to say, they will disguise and say something completely different, something completely diverged from what they wanted to say. Also, understand that during a crisis, people may reveal hidden aspects to themselves. A friend who usually was very quiet may suddenly become very politically conscious or very argumentative. Someone who's extremely politically conscious may suddenly, become extremely anxious at a time like this, because now there's a limited amount of times he can criticize Modi or criticize anyone else. Very often, people in friendships ask themselves, what can I get from this friendship? What can I get? Are these people going to add to my social quotient going up? Are they all good looking enough to make my Instagram feed look fantastic? Are they going to make me enjoy my youth in the way I had imagined I would enjoy my youth? But very often, people forget to ask themselves, what can I offer? What am I willing to offer? Now, when I say offer, it doesn't mean that you don't have any dignity and you just beg people to accept your services, or accept your plans, or accept your care, your concern, your friendship, your love, your ideas. You never have to beg. But at the same time, if you switch the mindset from what can I take to what can I give, you will find yourself not feeling so much like a victim. You will feel like you are taking charge of any friendship that you may or may not be a part of. Because what happens is the victim game. Some people play this thing that I call the victim game, which means feeling sorry for yourself, feeling horrible about yourself, feeling, oh my God, my life sucks. Oh my God, I didn't get mangoes this season because I'm locked in my house. Oh no, I cannot go to Europe this year. Oh no, now I am not able to go out and play soccer, or whatever it is that you enjoy doing. So if you keep cribbing about your life, blaming the world, blaming Narendra Modi, blaming your college, blaming your schedule, blaming your family, that's what we call as the victim game. What happens is, if you keep repeating these things to yourself and to other people, they start finding you boring and dull, because there's only so much of a sob story that can be interesting. And what happens with sob stories is they tend to be cyclical in nature. So you keep repeating the same facts, and people start saying, "Arey, yaar, this guy is going to start his saga, Dukh Bhari Dasta," and then that's going to just get boring. So yeah, isko mat bulao yaar. Yeah, isko please mat पूछो. Iska opinion kya hai? And then you start feeling uh, left out. You start feeling ignored. So, and it's very common for a lot of people, they sink into this victim game, thinking that their desires and their emotions are special. And I have to keep telling them, no, I'm sorry, you're not special at all. How do you insulate your friendships during these times of social distancing? One, you need to develop a knack for empathy. Now, this is easier said than done. Empathy is the art of understanding what other people are going through. You have to understand that they too have journeys, they too have bad habits, they too have irritating parents, maybe. They too have problems trying to figure out their futures. They too have to make big decisions in a very short time period. So, to empathize is to be able to understand that not everyone is constantly thinking about you or thinking about how they can make your life better or easier, but they are also struggling with their own problems. So you have to be empathetic for you to understand that there are so many aspects of their life that you are not privy to, and therefore you must not expect from people without first fully knowing what's happening behind the scenes. Secondly, a lot of people complain. I had a client just a few days ago. How do I meet new people? How do I meet new people? You cannot physically meet new people, but a lot of networking can take place on websites like LinkedIn, on Instagram. A lot of networking, you can drop messages to people. Yeah, sure, not everyone's going to reply to you, but if you send 25 messages every day, and in 5 days you send a lots of hundreds of messages have gone, and you suddenly realize that you get one reply of all those messages, that's good networking for you. Because as I always tell people, that you might be great at what you do, fantastic. You can submit all your assignments on time. You're so nice during the group projects. You figured out all, you memorized everything right in time for the exam. But that all amounts to absolute shit if you don't know how to deal with other human beings. So if you're not networking, even while you're locked down, by using WhatsApp groups, by using Facebook, by using Instagram, then you are missing out on a golden opportunity. Understand that people are going to be near their screens almost guaranteed at these times. So if you drop them a mail, they're that much more likely to see it. Under normal circumstances, they would not, they would probably miss it or not. So I what I do, I'm part of a lot of these WhatsApp groups, and it's annoying. I get it. It's very annoying. You keep getting those alerts, you keep getting those messages, and some people will even send you those horrible Jai Shri Krishna messages, forward this to 5 people. But I make it a point to be a part of every WhatsApp group. Why? Because do I love WhatsApp? Am I here to sell WhatsApp to you? No. In fact, I cannot stand WhatsApp, but I appreciate and respect its potential. What WhatsApp represents is potential for me. For me, it's like a tool. WhatsApp is like a rope. You can either use the rope to hang yourself, or you can use the rope to pull someone who's fallen inside a well. The rope is the same. It's a tool. So what I do is I am networking constantly with people from my industry, with people in my vicinity, trying to understand what's happening. I do give a small chunk of my day for this, because goodwill is an intangible and beautiful thing, cannot be measured in terms of money, but goodwill is what will really help you stay afloat, not just through this crisis, even if you start your own business someday. As they say, dosti yari mein kam ho jata. Believe it, for what I am saying. A lot of things that I have done in my career have been done. I've done just for goodwill, just for friendship, just because I believe very strongly in something called point number three. If you can see, it's called the spirit of initiative. It means don't just sit around waiting for Father Christmas to get you your Christmas gifts. You take the initiative. What can I give? What can I offer? Okay, you don't want to wear a mask and go and distribute food in Dharavi. Understood. I created 22 vlogs for 22 days of being locked in my house. Every day I was talking about a new issue related to your emotional well-being and mental health. And I put a lot of movies and Bollywood clips, so it becomes very funny. It becomes like uh, those thug life videos. I try to keep it very contemporary and very fun. Now, I don't know how good the videos are, but I got some very great feedback from a lot of people saying, your videos really brought a cheer to my day. So I used my knowledge of mental health. I used my knowledge of, I used to be in advertising, so I know how to edit reasonably well. I used both those disciplines to create something, to share an initiative, to bring some value. And because of that, a lot of people who were not initially my friends before the lockdown, we now are more in touch because they have understood a certain aspect of me better. So I talk to them, we make phone calls to each other, and I never spoke to them before the lockdown. So networking is important. Learn attitudinal tenacity and clarity. Now, what does attitudinal tenacity mean? A lot of people give up very easily. So they don't have what I refer to as tenacity, which is stamina. All right. They get completely washed out at the first sign of trouble. Now, a situation like the COVID-19, social distancing, etc., is a golden ticket for you to develop this much needed business attitude called tenacity. Because there are so many instances in the past where businesses have gone belly up, entire industries shutting down overnight. And you know how bad this lockdown and this pandemic is going to be for the hospitality and travel business. They are in for a world of shit. If they don't, someone sent me a forward. I don't know if it's true, so please don't blame me later. That they actually had to throw away craft beer because no one was there to consume it. And I think effing gut is developing their own hand sanitizers. I saw it somewhere. So unless you learn to be tenacious and be clear with what your vision is for yourself, for your business, for your life, unless you don't learn that, whether there is a pandemic or not, you will waste a lot of time, not just your time, everyone else's time as well. The next point is you need to learn to focus on being innovative and creative in this time. So if there are activities that you have never had the time to do, there's a hobby you'd like to do, and you feel like now your schedule has opened up a little bit. This is the perfect opportunity to innovate and be creative. Now, I love reading books, but because of my schedule, when I'm working without the pandemic, of course, I don't have time to read. Or I come home and I'm very tired and I just want to watch my Netflix or my Amazon Prime. But now every day I try to spend at least 1 hour trying to do some reading, trying to work through a book. So that to me is me being innovative with my time. To be innovative doesn't mean you innovate a gadget. You don't invent something. You can do simple things creatively. You can upgrade your cooking skills. You can learn a new board game. I taught myself chess and I suck at it. Oh my God, I'm so bad. In fact, one of my students taught me how to play chess and then he gave me some homework. I used to teach him. Now he's teaching me and I keep losing to him, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the fact that I've never played chess in my life and now I look forward to it. Chalo, let me improve my game. And with time, I will get better because there are a lot of things I was not good at when I started out professionally, and I got better at it with practice. So you can be creative, you can be innovative, and that creativity and innovativeness can also percolate down to your friendships. Because if you're an innovative person, if you take initiative, you're good at networking, you're empathetic, and you are tenacious, people will want to be friends with you, whether or not they are locked down or not. Inculcate standards to curation. Now, I'll be repeating this point later as well. Uh, See, what happens is I said we have a very loose selection process for the type of people we let in our lives. We tend to just let people in our lives because they're physically next to us, because they live close to our houses, or because they're of the same gender, or because they like the same soccer team, or because they like the same type of beer, whatever it is. Uh, Curation is the process of really eliminating down to people who you know would put themselves on the line if push comes to shove. Will this person come through for me? Is a question you could ask yourself. For example, if you get hospitalized, how many of these so-called friends would come with dabba of food to feed your family at the hospital, or would sit and spend time trying to cheer you up, or bring you magazines or books or whatever to cheer you up? And you'd be shocked at the number you arrive on. Not everyone would do it. Or if they show up, they would do it so they can take a photo with you and post it to their Instagram story. Why? Because it's good for PR. Okay, so ask yourself these questions. Okay, you need to rework the way you live. You also need to rework the way in which you make friends, the way in which you sustain friendships. Like I, for a very long time, had lost touch with making phone calls because of WhatsApp, because of Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, so many bloody messengers. So now I am taking an initiative. I'm also using the Zoom calls, the Zoom app, to network people from my circles to create, sort of nexuses, so I can help their professions, I can help their careers, and also to get knowledge because you can learn a lot from people, as I said. So if I know someone who has a certain knowledge of a certain as like a friend of mine, he does these miniature paintings. He paints action figures. So, and I have a friend of mine who wants to do an animated movie with monsters. So I connected both of them and I just listened to both of them speak, and their passion was so infectious. So I reworked the way in which I try to get people together. Can't do it in the real world, we do it in the virtual world. Second is you have to be reasonable with yourself. Some people, what they do is they bite more than they can chew. And what will happen if you try to stuff too much food down your throat? You'll choke and you may die. So be reasonable with yourself. Don't set unrealistic goals for yourself as a friend, as a professional, as an individual. Today, I will read 50 pages of a book and clean the house and do a very, very strenuous workout and watch a movie and see a documentary and talk to my best friend and take the dog for a walk. No, go slow. Okay, be reasonable with yourself. These are uncertain times. And someone had shared this on Instagram a few days ago that it's a pandemic, not a productivity contest. Though productivity is nice, there should be a certain reasonableness that you follow. And the third is take responsibility, because it's easy to sit around the house and complain and blame your mother and your father and your sister and your brother and your dog and your cat and your friends and your life and the government. You can blame anyone and everyone. If you are looking to blame someone, you will find the evidence required to blame them. But if you're looking to take responsibility for whatever it is that you need to accomplish for yourself, then you will stop being such a Mr. or Miss Cranky Pants, as we used to say in school. Stop being so cranky. You need to adapt, you need to improvise, and you need to be shameless about it. Shamelessness is the number one skill that our societies and schools don't teach us. Teachers will say, have some shame, you haven't done your homework, have some shame. Everyone else has understood this concept. You're so stupid, you don't understand. Parents will say, have some shame, you have chosen to be a bartender. What kind of profession is that? It's a real client of mine who wanted to be a bartender, moved to Spain, and have a lesbian relationship. And she says, how do I explain this to my father, who's from Uttar Pradesh? It's complicated, isn't it? But there's a certain degree of shamelessness that you need to inculcate in the pursuit of your dreams. Only you are responsible for your dreams. If your dreams are not fulfilled because of mommy and daddy, know that it still rests entirely on you to prove to them that you know what you're talking about. And no one will believe you till you have evidence of your successes. And that kind of evidence takes years, years and years to build on. So if you want to fight, fight right, fight fair, fight for yourself, because it's not getting acceptance and love is not easy. You're not living in some ashram. You're dealing with human beings with flaws, with really annoying habits, including your parents sometimes. Sometimes their friends could also be giving you free advice. We live in a country where giving free advice is a part-time profession of everybody. All right. So you have to be shameless. You have to be shamelessness doesn't mean you are reckless. Recklessness means you have not put thought into it. To be shameless is to put all your worries and put all your anxieties aside and say, I need to do this for myself. So if you feel you're coming across as too desperate by trying to connect with people and they're not giving you any bow, you still need to be shameless, because at the end, you're doing this for yourself. All right. We'll talk about our second topic, which is fear. We've spoken about friendship. Now, what are the common things that people are afraid of? I may have not covered something. These are the ones that I have heard of while talking with my clients. Firstly, there's uncertainty. When will this end? When will the lockdown end? When will the pandemic end? Second is boredom. What should I do? What should I do with my time? What should I do with my friends? What should I do with my family? What should I do in my life? The third is people are getting worried about becoming obsolete. Am I even a part of the conversation anymore? Do people even care about what I think or what I wear or what I feel? Because now there is so much information. There is, and it's crazy, because when I grew up in a time where the internet came in my life when I was 12 years old. Before that, there was no internet. No, there was no such thing as the internet. I got my first mobile phone when I was 17 years old. उसके पहले था ही नहीं. So get people were able to focus on things without getting distracted. Now what's happened is we're all spread very thin. We're also afraid of the fact that we're not able to duck authority figures. Now those of y'all living with your families are now under more scrutiny than you have ever been before. You know, whether you're trying to sneak downstairs for a cigarette or whatever it is you're doing, you cannot escape these so-called authority figures who decide your life, who decide your budget, who decide lots of things for you. A lot of people are afraid of that as well. People are afraid of being lonely. They're saying, "Mere liye kaun hai? Who's there for me?" and people. The most common one is, I'm going to die. I'm going to get infected and die of the coronavirus. What a shitty life I have led. Now, understand that these are fears you may not feel together at the same time. You may feel one of these fears, and then it may get relegated to the background. Then a new fear comes, and then a third fear comes. That's just the nature of fear. Fear, in my opinion, is like the Dadar station. There are lots of trains coming and going. Maybe not nowadays, but you go to Dadar station, lots of, so fears are like trains, but trains don't stay at the station for 1 hour unless they're broken down. So all our fears are transitionary. Our fears are our conduit through which we do something known as risk assessment. And all human beings have something known as a risk appetite. So if you have a very high risk appetite, you are less afraid. If you have a very low risk appetite, that I want to live by the rules, I want to live within the box, then of course you will feel more afraid. All right. So the first step of conquering fear is to understand what the fear is and to accept it. Accept it as being human. Don't fight with it. Everyone's experiencing it. All right. Now, what are the 7 reprieves? What is the meaning of a reprieve? Matlab relief. In my opinion, there are 7 ways in which you can directly deal with your fears. Whatever those fears are, whether you are afraid of dying, or you're afraid of boredom, or you're afraid your father is going to find out that you've been watching too much porn, whatever the hell it is, your fear has reprieves. And these are the 7 ones. The first one is activity. If you keep yourself busy or creatively occupied, even if it means doing jhadu or helping your mom pick patta from, coriander or from mint, all right, dhania patta, keep yourself busy because that will give you structure. It's good for the way in which in which you plan your day, to have certain spells where you are engaged in a certain activity, because busyness will keep your mind distracted and keep your mind engaged creatively, so that you don't have space for fear at that time, because you can only do one thing at a time. Second thing that you can do to address fear is what I call upskilling. Are you, how many of you all, you can answer this later, have done online courses during this time? Uh, all attended online lectures? It really depends on your personality. Now, I am doing something, I've started a drawing class where I am improving my drawings. I used to draw quite well in school, they used to say. So it has nothing to do with my profession, but I am sketching, I'm trying. I realized that I need to improve my technique. So I paid for a class, something like 600-700 rupees, not so much. And I'm doing the class. Whenever I feel like there's nothing to do, I try to upskill. That even at the end of the pandemic, if I'm able to draw better, I've always had a dream of starting my own comic strip because I'm obsessed with comic books and superhero movies since I was growing up. Um, if that skill helps me become more interesting and smarter, maybe it might help me in certain ways that I don't understand as of today, but in the future, who knows, where sketching might be very valuable for a book I may write, etc. Third thing you can do to deal with your fears, to journal. If you record your thoughts, you exorcise them. It's kind of like letting the bhoot out. So a lot of geniuses of their time, whether it's Steve Jobs or Einstein, or even the gentleman from Tesla, I can't remember his name, Elon Musk, they all maintain journals of their ideas and of their thoughts, because what happens is the human brain is like a filing system. We tend to file away a lot of information. Now, when you let certain information out of your system and file it away, either in a handwritten diary or on an app like Evernote or even on Microsoft Word, whatever you choose to use, you are freeing up that much cognitive real estate. That much space in your brain is now available for other interesting things to enter. So it's like cleaning out a closet. Once you get rid of all the unnecessary papers in a specific shelf, you can actually use it to put something that you use on a more daily basis and get rid of all the kachra. It's like spring cleaning. Thirdly, uh, if you want to deal with your fear, you must connect with people who have dealt with their fear, or who inspire you, or who are able to operate despite being afraid. Now, different people are inspired by different heroes, and there's a chance that if you write to a celebrity, they're not going to answer you. Fair enough. There could be leaders of industry, leaders in sport, leaders who you have access to through any number of ways. Connecting with people who inspire you, even if they don't directly answer you, they may answer someone else. If you log into Insta lives of people who are having chats, you see how they conduct themselves, you observe, you understand their opinions. you are also connecting with them vicariously. Then you cannot connect with them face to face. I feel there's a lot that you can gain through inspiration from people who you feel are models for yourself. So they are role models who excite you. The next thing you can do is you must accept that there isn't always a straight answer to a lot of things in this world. There was this guy who came to me for counseling, and his girlfriend cheated on him. And he kept asking me, why did she do it? Why did she do it? Why did she do it? How could she do it? Why? I said, how could I possibly know why she did it? We can come up with a hypothesis, but there's no way in which we can conclusively, two men sitting here, discuss and extrapolate that kind of information that we're not privy to. And since she's broken up with you and she's blocked you, you must learn to make your peace with the fact that there isn't a straight answer to this question. However, there may have been enough evidence in the past for us to put together what I would call a provisional diagnosis of what happened. All right. The next thing you can do to deal with your fear, acceptance is very important in dealing with fear. First, you accept you have the fear, then you accept that there needn't always be a straight answer to a problem because, as I said, your emotions are not special, right? If it bothers you, it's too bad. We will find a way forward, but it won't happen at the pace that you dictate, and it won't happen in the manner in which you want it to happen, right? There has to be some degree of unlearning and learning. Precautions. What do I need to remember to do? हाथ धोते रहो भैया. Huh? Nothing wrong with that. Definitely, we take precautions to address our fear. Suppose you have a fear of putting on too much weight because you've been having too much freaking chura and bakarwadi during the lockdown. What are the precautions you need to take? Make sure that stuff is not stored in a location where you end up munching it mindlessly. Then you put on weight. Then you feel bad. Oh no, I've put on weight. Oh no, I can see my double chin. You can take precautions to address most of your fears if you play it smart and if you have access to the right information. The next one is charity. Am I being of service? Now, charity doesn't mean you go and distribute free masks on the road. Charity could also be through WhatsApp. If you can't help your career, have you helped someone else's career? Maybe you have two friends from two different parts of your life, one from school, one from college, and you know that if these two people meet, they may form a very good alliance. They may do really well professionally if they are able to help each other out. All right. And maybe they'll thank you for it. Maybe they won't thank you for it. That's just how the world is. But you will feel incredibly powerful by being of service, by offering yourself through service. And I think there is great value to that because once you realize that there is so much more to gain by being of service to other people, then your fear isn't able to affect you because you now understand that you're not just alive or you're not just fulfilling a purpose that is self-centric, but it is a purpose that touches the lives of other people as well. So that is a mandate you need to set for yourself. Now we talk about the third category, which is FOMO. Where does it leave us? Fear of missing out. So what are we missing? Are we missing the bus? A lot of people don't understand that opportunities can be manufactured. People look at opportunities as if they are fruits hanging from a tree that we need to grab. What if you were to grow the tree? All right. So, very often, an opportunity can be manufactured. Steve Jobs used to say something which I really liked. He said, people don't know what they want unless you first give it to them. Bill Gates, if you see the mini series Inside Bill's Brain on Netflix, he's always looking for new problems to solve. That's just how his brain works. He can't just sit around sipping Starbucks. This is a man who has made it his mission to find solutions to very real problems using his considerable wealth and considerable intellect and considerable network. So, any opportunity that you feel you would like to be a part of, ask yourself, can I generate that opportunity? So when I moved to Mumbai from Singapore after living there for 7 years, a lot of my friends don't live here anymore. A lot of my friends are married with kids. I'm still not married. So I started missing my friends in Singapore. I said, shit, how do I meet new people? So I started creating these themed evenings and WhatsApp groups to get people together. I run a film club called the Real Sanctum, and we have now 75 people on it. It's not a big number, but I found each person individually through my network. Some members are more active than other members. I also have a food group where all the foodies are there. We call ourselves Bukar Sena. So these are, I know these are silly. These are silly, but I manufactured opportunities to meet new people for myself rather than just sitting on my ass and saying, when will they come? When will they come? When will I make my new friends? If you want something, you have to go out and take it. You can't wait around for your handouts, all right? It only works when you're 7 years old, only works when you're a kid, and mommy will order pizza for you if you have finished your homework. That's not how real life works. The second thing you're missing out is missing out on life. Now, a lot of people confuse being on pause, which we are on pause as a society, we can't do most of the things we would normally do, as deteriorating. Granted, our numbers have spiked in the corona, but still we are nowhere even close to what is happening in Europe. Now, I'm not a medical doctor, I have a doctorate. This is a discussion you can have with medical doctors, but a lot of people feel we're missing out on life. But then I implore you to think about it this way. If you're missing out on life, so is Amitabh Bachchan, locked in his house. Okay, he has a nice house. If you're missing out on life, probably so is Virat Kohli. So are all the famous people who you follow on Twitter, all these so-called um, social media influencers. They're also missing out on life. But if you see, a lot of them, even at home, are being so creative and so and so full of initiative. Like I follow this thing. I like this stand-up comedian called Atul Khatri. I find him hilarious. He's this old Sindhi guy. Some of y'all may or may not know. So he posts this thing every day on his IGTV called Only Positive News, and it's so hilarious and it makes me chuckle. I mean, घर पे बैठ के भी he's bringing laughter. He's a comedian, so he's going to do what he does. He's going to try to get a few jokes out there. Yet he's using it to cheer people up. Some people have the fear of missing their people. Oh, I cannot meet my friends. Oh, we were supposed to go here, but now we can't. Oh, but we had planned this backpacking adventure through Eastern Europe. To you, I say, please embrace the digital platforms available to you. They're quite wonderful. If you have MTNL internet, very unfortunate for you, but if you have decent internet speeds, please make the most of it. Travel vicariously. Learn from people who you admire. There are so many self help channels. There is an infinite number of wisdom to be accessed. You can choose whether to watch videos of kangaroos scaring ducks away, or you want to hear people doing giving TED talks and spreading their wisdom and spreading their influence, right? A lot of people have a fear of missing out on their freedom. And to that, I say, guys, you may not like everything that you do. Very often in life, we have to do things that we don't like to get to something that we do like. So I remember when I first started working, I had a very nasty boss. And he was a very unpleasant guy. He used to shout, give galis, Hindi, Marathi, English, galis in every possible language. He was very mean to me. So I was a South Bombay kid, so he thought that I'm a snob, which I'm not because I haven't lived in Bombay for many years. I was in boarding, I did my MBA in another place. I was in Singapore for almost 8 years, just a few months short of 8 years. So he used to get, so I have not been in Bombay to even know what South Bombay people are supposed to be like, but this guy would give me hell. All right. And I remember at that time, I used to not like going to office. I used to not like reporting to him. I used to not like sitting in meetings with him. I didn't even like his face. And he used to have this mooch which went up, and he used to look like a dacoit from Chambal, from freaking Chambal. And I never liked anything about him. But I was very firm with myself. I said, I'm here to learn. The money I'm getting paid is absolute shit right now, but I'm here to learn about the business of advertising, the business of promotions, and I will use that knowledge to upgrade myself in the future, which I did very, very successfully in Singapore and in several other places where I worked. I used all the lessons from that annoying individual. So I did not like my job, but I went through with it. So if you're missing your freedom, understand that you may not like sitting at home in front of your computer, in front of your iPad or your phone, but you're doing something wonderfully noble, because if you are a silent carrier of the COVID, you might be infecting someone. Someone could die because of you, even if it doesn't take you down. So understand you may not like everything you do, but sometimes you have to be firm with yourself. Sometimes you got to be real with yourself. What is the other thing people feel they're missing out on? They're missing out on that great plan, that special plan that we had made with some people like going camping, some people are very social. They want to go and chill out at Dulali's or Effingat or anywhere. They have a lot of great plans that they made with their New Year resolutions, etc. Not too long ago, though, just 3 months ago. So to them, I would say, please go back to the drawing board and replan. In all phases of your life, whatever level of planning you subscribe to, whatever level of planning you are able to execute, know that those plans are likely to fall flat, completely flat. So you have to be prepared for that. And you have to go in expecting that this plan might blow up in my face. But then what do I need to do? I need to have plan B. I need to go back to the drawing board. So I need to be proactive in what I do for myself. I need to be prepared that the plan may not come through. And I need to be extremely practical, because if I'm emotional and I'm a victim, oh ho, mere saath kitna bura hua hai, pata hai, oh ho, ye desh ka kuch nahi hoga, pata hai, people will get sick of you and bored of you. So be practical and learn to set priorities for yourself, because only you can set these priorities for yourself. No one else will. This is a quote I really like. You will miss 100% of the shots you don't take. This is obviously a metaphor, a sports metaphor by Wayne Gretzky, who's into ice hockey. Obviously, we don't do ice hockey here, but it's a very nice quote that I had seen somewhere a long time ago. So take the shot. What's the worst that could happen? You'll fall flat on your face. People will say you're so stupid, you're so negligent, you're so dumb, you didn't know, you don't understand, or you're so needy. What are people are going to say something? It's going to be an opinion. Understand that an opinion is not a fact. Only a fact is a fact, and you get to filter out a lot of opinions, which is why, from a broad curation process, we need to slightly narrow in to the kinds of people and experiences we'd like to invite in our life. All right. And that, my friends, brings me towards the conclusion of what I'd like to share with you today. I'm on LinkedIn. If you'd like to find me there, you can add me at Dr. Aman Bhosle. I also have a YouTube channel, guys. It's called Dr. Aman Bhosle. I would love it if you could see there are not too many subscribers. It's very new. I teach transactional analysis, and my lockdown vlogs are there. If you can see in the bottom left, 22 videos for 22 days. Me at my house, just talking, chilling. I'd love your support. If you would like to follow me, I genuinely appreciate it if you subscribe. So yes, do subscribe. And with that, I would like to throw the floor open to any questions you may have about what I've said, or even if it has nothing directly to do with what I've said, if I can answer it, I will do my best. So that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for letting us know how empathy, uh, networking initiative, and attitudinal clarity and innovative creativity is so much important in this scenario. So to start off with the queries, we have one query from Tanya Sharma. She asked, so how would you deal with a feeling of indifference that has suddenly taken over you? I repeat this, how would you deal with a feeling of indifference that has suddenly taken over?
So, see, Tanya, what happens is we tend to feel indifferent when we are overwhelmed with information, or we tend to feel indifferent when we are disappointed in a certain situation. So, indifference is in many ways a coping mechanism for us also to sort of process our own understanding of a situation. So, I also have experienced indifference at certain phases in my life when I have had breakups in the past. There will be some days where you feel really sad and mopey, some days you feel very indifferent. You say, the half Punjabi in me will say, ki farak penda hai, life goes on. So there's nothing wrong with you if you feel indifferent. However, how is that indifference translating into your relationships? That is what I would be concerned about. So if you're indifferent and you're being unhelpful around the house because you're indifferent, then that's a problem. Because I will tell people very often that if you want to draw from the ecosystem of the house, you want to enjoy the hot parathas made by mom, then you have to also supply the ecosystem. You can't just sit on your ass and complain about Modi and about how everything is bad. I remember Irfan Khan has passed away today, very sad. And one of my favorite actors, in fact. If you follow me on Instagram, I just posted my favorite Irfan Khan movies. Uh, he said something in an interview once. He said that, if a cricketer is playing cricket and it's hot, and the family is watching the match, there could be a wife who's bellowing rotis and watching the match, trying to understand cricket. And if Sachin plays a shot that he misses the ball, or he plays a crappy shot, that wife while making rotis will very freely and easily say, अरे अरे यार वो सचिन को वो शॉट नहीं खेलना चाहिए था. बोलना बहुत आसान है यार, बोल तो सब लेते हैं. So I often tell people, you have an opinion, great. It's important only to you. You don't have an opinion, you're feeling indifferent, also fine. Just learn more about the situation if it concerns you, and if your indifference is becoming a hindrance for your family or for your roommates. I'm indifferent so I don't clean up my room, I'm indifferent so I don't keep my surroundings clean, then you're being slobbish and inconsiderate. And that will be okay maybe around your mother. You try that in the corporate world, because old habits die hard, and it may cost you your job, or worse, your reputation.
Great. Uh, I I want to ask this question. I mean, we as Amity Group have been making sure that we occupy our students through online classes and webinars so that they get to be busy around the day. But there have been a lot of cases coming up where students, kids particularly, because they are bounded to their home. So what is though this webinar says a lot about it, but any word of piece of advice would you want to give?
See, uh, those who are going through
What's that
depression,
doing?
I think such people should definitely go for therapy. See, therapy is like a checkup of how your mind is working. So the way I have spoken to you, when people come to me for therapy, I keep it very conversational. I keep it very practical. Uh, so what happens is, if you try to seek advice out from your family or your cousins or your friends, a lot of them are not trained in the process of mentoring, or they're not qualified to help you. Sort of tackle your cognitive errors or biases that you might be carrying. We all have certain unrealistic expectations from a situation. Very often, what is being said, what is being dubbed as depression, is actually not depression, is just impatience or just transient fears. So that diagnosis needs to be made by someone who's qualified. Because I also feel too often the word depression is used very loosely, and also, very often, I'm seeing this as a cop out. People say, I'm depressed because they'll get special privileges. That, oh, because you're depressed, the deadline is pushed for you. Because you're depressed, you don't have to clean your room. Because you're depressed, you don't have to take your career seriously. Because you're depressed, you're not expected to behave in a manner that is congenial and affable. So that is, I do feel it could be a cop out, but in cases where it is genuine, keep yourself occupied, surround yourself with inspiring things and with inspiring ideas. Because sometimes people will let you down. People will let you down throughout your life. People in your family, people who are supposed to take a good care of you. People do let us down every now and then, but ideas will never ever let you down. An idea will always leave you wanting for more and leave you stronger and smarter.